No self-hate, self-love embrace, unconditional forgiveness, self-forgiveness, self-regulate, watch for the snake of self-hate. No self-hate, no self-hate. Accelerating the evolution of human emotion intelligence. It's about you, me, us, we can touch the sky, we can sail the seas. We are in the pursuit of self-peace. We educate ourselves in our lifetime in pursuit of all we can be. Our light shine at the same time. We are of the universe, is one in the same mind, on the same timeline. Your success is mine, my success is yours. If you invest the time, evolution is yours. Can't waste another minute. I must evolve, they must evolve, we must evolve. Our emotional intelligence, human love is our only relevance. Let me hear you yell it, I can't hear you yelling it. No self-hate, you are your everything, you are my everything. We are our everything, we are prepared for anything and everything. I'm so great, you're so great, we're so great. No self-hate, no self-hate. I love me, you love you, we love we. We exist individually in a group. This is true, there's only one group. Me and you, we'll see it through. Be this true, we're the true. Love thyself first and elevate. Accelerate the evolution of human emotional intelligence. No!
Disclaimer: No Self-Hate is a mental health awareness platform, not a licensed therapy provider or certified psychological organization. All content is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice or a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are in crisis or need immediate support, please contact a licensed mental health provider or call, text 988 for the Crisis Lifeline, US only. Some topics may include sensitive mental health themes. Viewer discretion is advised. This channel may include brief use of copyrighted material under Fair Use, U.S. Copyright Law, Section 107, for commentary, education, and discussion.
Hello, and welcome to No Self-Hate, Season 1, Episode 8, Part 1 of 6. What is emotional intelligence? I am your host, Kevin, and I will be your guide for today's episode. Now, this is the episode we've been building up to all season. We've went over a lot of the human experiences and the human feelings, such as self-hatred, trauma, anger, forgiveness, morality, accountability, and now we're stepping into emotional intelligence. Now, I want you to know that all of those previous episodes led us up to this point. It's impossible to teach you emotional intelligence in 1 hour and expect for it to stick. We had to learn our lessons at the pace that we learned them at. We had to go out there and put some of these lessons into play, apply these lessons to our lives, and come back and continue building. And that's exactly what we did. All right. And we are going to continue to build ourselves. We are going to continue this self-service mental health awareness journey together. We understand that there are resources out here, such as therapy, counselors, psychologists, all types of things available to us. But not each and every one of us can afford these things or have access to these things. And at that point, we must take this into our own hands. We must learn emotional intelligence. We must learn conflict management. We must learn what it means to be emotionally reactive versus emotionally intelligent. We have to learn these things. These are key essentials and critical items needed to enjoy or enhance, I should say, the enjoyment that we're currently experiencing, improve our positivity in life, and enhance our relationships, and overall move us closer to the success that we want to experience. And the best feeling I've ever felt in life was happiness. And sometimes our emotions can get in the way of that happiness, whether it's being irritated, whether it's being frustrated, whether something doesn't go our way. These things chip away at that happiness that we're trying to maintain, right? Happiness isn't something that you just achieve once and you have it forever. No, you have to work hard to maintain your peace. You have to work hard to maintain your happiness within self, your inner peace and inner happiness. And you have to do the work. And doing the work is educating yourself on what it means to be emotionally intelligent. What are emotions? Why do I feel all the time? As human beings, we're constantly feeling. Oh, well, I feel I want to eat this for dinner. Or I don't like the way this went. Oh, I don't like to do that. Our society and cultural norms have taught us to feel all of the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I do believe there is a such thing as feeling too much. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in any situation, I can feel happy or look at the positive things to feel happy, or I could feel negative and look at the pessimistic, negative things to make me feel bad. There's a choice there for some of us. Some of us don't have a choice. Some people are just reacting and not aware, not self-aware, not, within themselves and whole with themselves. And they have no control over their emotional impulses, impulsive reactions, anger. These are the things that hold us back in life, in my opinion. But if we learn to make the choice to choose the things that to believe the things that benefit us, we want to believe the things that benefit us. And that there requires a lot of emotional intelligence. We want to enhance the relationships in our life. That requires emotional intelligence, right? And you look at the world, look at the grand scheme of the world. Across all races, across all parties, factions, classes of wealth, there's one commonality there. And that commonality is that no matter how much money you have, no matter how old you are, no matter how much you've learned about your degrees and all of the college work you've done, we all share that occasionally we have low emotional intelligence because we were never taught these things. Not all of us, right? Where I grew up in Chicago, I was not taught emotional intelligence, right? No one set me down in a class and went through the different parts of emotional intelligence, told me the benefits, and said that I would need this to have a better life. Not saying that I didn't have one, but to have a better life, to enhance your life, right? And that's why this episode is so important. I have so much in store for you all. I don't want to eat up too much time talking, but you get it. This is very important. If the world watched this video, we would have a different reality tomorrow. And I want you to know how powerful this information is. You put on a suit for it. I need you to know we are serious about this. Okay? So buckle in, put on your thinking hats. I want to thank all of my supporters. Thank all of my no self haters that have been on the journey with us all year to get through this information. It's impossible for you to learn this information in 1 hour. It takes time, right? We have to learn something, go out, test it, figure out where we went wrong, continuously improve, make improvements, and then we come back for the next level. And that's exactly what No Self-Hate did for us all year, accelerating the evolution of human emotional intelligence. All right? So, without further hesitation, let's get right into this information. See you on the other side. All right, everyone. Let's get ready to get started. I want you to relax. I want you to be prepared to stand in that mirror. I want you to be prepared to learn some things, take some notes, take some voice notes maybe. But we're going to cover some very important information that could potentially open a whole new world for us. All right. So let's get ready. All right. Be ready to stand in that mirror. Hold thyself accountable. All right. So that we can move on to solutions and better ourselves and enhance our overall happiness, peace, and fulfillment ultimately in this lifetime. All right. So what is emotional intelligence? What is it? All right. Well, before we go into the actual information, I want you to think about what that means to you. Have you ever heard of emotional intelligence? What do you know about emotional intelligence? Was it taught to you in your household? If so, what ways? Did you learn it at school? Did you have a therapist? How did you learn about emotional intelligence? All right. I want you to think about that as we start this episode. But we'll go in and define it. All right. So we got a new thing here. I want you to follow me on this infographic here. So emotional intelligence is one of the most important abilities a human can develop. All right. It affects how we think, how we react under pressure, how we communicate, how we process trauma and pain, how we handle conflict, how we build relationships, how we lead ourselves and others. Okay. All of those things matter. Now, many people spend years developing academic intelligence, technical skills, and financial goals while never learning how to regulate emotions, communicate effectively, process trauma, manage anger, build healthy relationships, take accountability, understand themselves emotionally. Now, emotional intelligence isn't just a skill, it's the foundation of a meaningful life. Oof. Doesn't mean your life doesn't have meaning if you don't have emotional intelligence. We're saying it enhances that meaning. Okay. And we start with a few things here. Self-awareness, know yourself deeply. Self-regulation, master your emotions. Social awareness, understand others' emotions and other people. Relationship skills, connect and build trust. Responsible decisions, choose what's right, not just what's easy. Leadership, lead yourself, then others, right? In the lower right-hand corner, we see there's a better life, a better you, better relationships, better decisions. So emotional intelligence enhances all of these things, right? So in simple terms, emotional intelligence is thinking before you're reacting. Want to pause, breathe, choose your response. Recognizing emotional triggers. Self-awareness is the first step to control. Self-awareness is the first step to control. Right? Understanding how your behavior affects others. That matters. That's part of being emotionally intelligent. I was talking to someone about that over the weekend. It's not just about how you feel. Any person can just feel what they feel and not care how it affects those around them. But that's not showing emotional intelligence. Think about intelligence. You want to do that emotionally, okay? Empathy turns relationships into real connections. Next up is listening instead of interrupting. This is huge. Those of you who struggle with cutting people off, interrupting people, whether you're in a position of authority, whether you're a subordinate, whether you have money, don't have money, you have severe low emotional intelligence if you are constantly interrupting people. Think about that. We're having a conversation. Each time you interrupt me, you change the timeline of information that I wanted to say. Right? That's inconsiderate. That's rude. But a lot of people do it. So today we've learned just from this, if we listen instead of interrupting people while they're talking, no matter what emotional impulses we feel, We're showing and displaying high emotional intelligence. Next up is communicating clearly during conflict. Calm words build solutions, not more problems. Calling people names, disrespecting people, passive aggression, all of these things are only going to amplify conflict. It's only going to amplify it. But you have to be able to communicate clearly. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to be patient. Remember, this is only one conversation of a million you'll have in your lifetime. There's no need to crash out at every conversation that makes you upset, that makes you angry, or that you don't understand. Next up is managing anger constructively. Control your anger before it controls you. There are prisons full of people that didn't follow this. There are prisons full of people that didn't control their anger because what? Low emotional intelligence. It's across humanity. Doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your status in society. It doesn't matter your financial class. It doesn't matter where you work. All of us potentially have low emotional intelligence. Now, there are some that have been studying this information for years, and they figured it out. But that is a very small percentage compared to the rest of us. All right? This stuff isn't available. This information isn't available at the local city school. I haven't seen any programs in city schools that are, from kindergarten to 12th grade. You have to take emotional intelligence every year. I've never seen that. And I wonder why. I wonder, do corporations benefit from humanity's low emotional intelligence? We'll look into that this episode and see what's going on there. See who's benefiting from low emotional intelligence. And then last but not least, taking accountability instead of blaming. Ownership empowers growth and earns respect. Emotional intelligence isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware, choosing better, and growing every day. That is what emotional intelligence is. So why is it important to learn emotional intelligence? Right? Let's think about that. So many people will never be formally taught emotional regulation, which is managing your emotions in a healthy way, accountability, owning your actions and their impact on others, empathy, understanding and caring about others. Think about that piece right there. And I'll ask you, does society or does your community promote caring about others and having empathy? Right? Think about that. Communication is up next, expressing clearly and listening deeply. So communication isn't just about you speaking. It's about you actively listening, actively having empathy, actively being able to position yourself to see something from someone else's point of view. Trauma healing, processing past pain and finding peace. Healthy conflict resolution, resolving differences with respect and understanding. Right? Healthy conflict. I know that may be unfamiliar to a lot of us. When we hear conflict, we automatically assume it's something negative, but there is a such thing as healthy conflict when you have the decorum, respect, and integrity of a person that wants to be civil, that wants to resolve issues in a civil manner. Okay? Learning emotional intelligence yourself helps you break unhealthy family cycles. A lot of us were raised in households with families that didn't have emotional intelligence or was never taught emotional intelligence, right? They had low emotional intelligence. And that's part of social conditioning. And we'll talk about social conditioning later. But when your environment, the lessons learned in your environment that you're not learning from anywhere else, they're teaching you these unhealthy cycles. Right? And family is another place that it can happen. All right? Improve relationships. Learning emotional intelligence yourself helps you make sure your relationships last longer. If you're a person that's in and out of relationships all of the time, it's a good chance you may have low emotional intelligence. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something you can fix, but it could mean those things. You could reduce emotional suffering. People sitting around just laying in the bed crying. People just, go somewhere and just cry. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're venting energy, but are you doing it properly? Are you managing the ideas on the conveyor belt of your mind properly? Are you making sure you're making the right choices with those emotions and ideas? I can easily choose to believe something negative. There's something negative in everything. But are you developing the ability to look at the positive in things, in the optimism in things better? Are you doing that? Are you exercising that? Right? Communicate more effectively. When you're able to communicate, one thing I know that's contagious is respect. I've seen it plenty of times. People do find weird reasons to feel disrespected so that they can begin communicating in weird ways. But I've noticed when I had a low tone, I was respectful. I was talking to people like they're human, like they're human beings, like I care about them, like I care about what they think. I'm not raising my voice at them. I'm not displaying low EQ with anger, frustration, and all of these other things. Things normally go well. When I say thank you, please, how are you doing? It disarms people, right? When I'm able to, at work, when I'm able to communicate my ideas effectively, it doesn't take many words when I can communicate ideas effectively. And we have an episode called Effective Communication that also helped us with that. Heal unresolved pain, trauma, right? I remember telling you all that I know people that are 40, 50, 60 years old that are still walking around with childhood trauma. Think about it. Something happened to them at 14 years old, and they still think about it at 60 every day. They carry it. They're subscribed to this trauma and this misery. That's a part of life. Things happen sometime. But we don't stay there forever. We learn how to move forward when we're emotionally intelligent. Become more self-aware. This is so important. Being self-aware is at the root of emotional intelligence. You must be able to do self-diagnostics, run self-diagnostics to be able to feel how you feel and be in touch with self so that you can govern yourself better. And then respond instead of react. A lot of us, when things happen, we react. An impulse says do something, and we do it. We don't pause. We don't think about what options. I'll give you a nugget here. Whenever something happens, some bad news, conflict, anything, someone brings something to you, always pause and give yourself at least 3 options to move forward. The first option may be get angry. The second option may be calm. The third option may be don't say anything. But always give yourself options when you feel the emotions brewing. And it's so real and it's so difficult to do when you feel emotional about something, to catch yourself, because you're so used to your heart, trusting your heart and trusting those feelings that you just go with them. And there's a such thing, as I said earlier, is feeling too much, right? We're humans. That's what makes us humans. That's what makes us alive, is our ability to feel and communicate those feelings. So it can be difficult, but it can be done, all right? This means emotional growth often becomes a personal responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility that you have emotional intelligence. It's not your mom's responsibility. It's not the school's responsibility. It's not the church's responsibility. Because if it was, they would have picked up on it. And a lot of schools have, and a lot of organizations have picked up on that. But it's a personal duty that when you are born, that you have to learn how to be emotionally intelligent to avoid conflict. A lot of people that aren't emotionally intelligent put themselves in danger more. Think about that. Prison, fights, conflict, confrontation. That's putting your life in danger. Having emotional intelligence is technically a survival skill as well, if you think about it. right? But it's a personal responsibility. Don't count on anyone else to teach you this information. Now, No Self Hate is doing it because I understand the crises, the emotional intelligence crises that humanity is currently in. And our goal is to accelerate the evolution of human emotional intelligence. So I do get it. And there are organizations out here that do understand this. But it's your responsibility. Every day of your life, you should be reading something and learning something to strengthen your emotional intelligence, right? All right, so I just mentioned it, the emotional intelligence crises. Okay, there's a crisis in with humanity where low EQ is so rampant throughout our society that there are numbers that tell us about it. So let's look at some of these numbers that tell us about what state we are in. Where, currently, where are we as human beings in the emotional intelligence spectrum? All right. All right. So 71% of employers value EQ more than IQ. Think about that. I got a Harvard guy that I can hire, graduated top of his class. He's excellent, knows all of his stuff. But when someone says something to him the wrong way, he goes off the deep end and crashes out. Or do I want an employee that never crashes out or rarely does and is able to emotionally regulate and, get through some of the challenges that we're going to face, because challenges are a part of life, but he's not as smart as the Harvard guy. But he's going to have more peace around your job. It's going to be more harmony. There's going to be more team collaboration because this person is emotionally intelligent, right? IQ is technical skills and intelligence. EQ is emotional intelligence and your people skills. So what this suggests, and this is a Harvard Business School online reported this information. All right. But what it suggests is that employers increasingly recognize that many workplace problems come from poor communication, emotional reactivity. Reactivity creates conflict, escalates tension, and disrupts team dynamics. Lack of empathy. Without empathy, teamwork suffers and people feel unheard and undervalued. Low accountability, avoiding responsibility leads to mistakes being repeated and trust being eroded. And then conflict management issues. Poor conflict management creates ongoing tension in a toxic environment. I've experienced all of this in my time. And it is absolutely true. As I once was a person that walked around and went to work and operated in society like I was just a normal person that had everything that I needed. But yeah, I was missing emotional intelligence. And I went through a lot of these things. All right. So if EQ is being prioritized this heavily, it suggests many workplaces struggle because emotional skills are lacking. Think about how much money is going out the window when you have employees that struggle with emotional intelligence. They're calling off work for whatever reason. They're running into challenges and problems, and they're not finding solutions for them because they're feeling some type of way about it. They're holding grudges with each other. They're, creating silos where they're not willing to work with everyone. Think about that. The psychological piece of being an employee or an employer, hiring people that they need to get along with people. It's billions of us on this planet. We have to learn how to be able to get along with each other and work with each other. But low EQ doesn't allow that. So that's why this number is a part, or this stat is a part of the emotional intelligence crisis on the planet. All right. Next up, 59% of employers would reject someone with low EQ. Research cited by SciSci, International Honor Society and Psychology, found 59% of employers would not hire someone with low EQ even if they had high IQ. So just going to school and being the top of your class and being the best at all of this and the best at all of that isn't enough. And a lot of people that I know have all of these credentials, but they just can't keep a job. They get these jobs, they have them for a few months, and then they're gone. Could it be that it's an emotionally intelligent thing? Okay. So low EQ is not equal to high IQ. High IQ can get you in the door, but low EQ can keep you out. So what this suggests is that high intelligence alone is not enough if someone lacks emotional regulation. Inability to manage emotions leads to impulsive reactions, conflict, and poor decision making. Communication skills. Poor communication creates misunderstandings, breaks trust, and damages relationships. Teamwork ability, struggles to collaborate, adapt, and contribute positively to a team environment. Maybe it's someone on a team that person doesn't like and they don't want to work around them, or they get distracted, which is taken away from their overall ability to contribute to the collaboration. Empathy, lack of empathy leads to insensitivity, weak relationships, and toxic workplace dynamics. And then accountability, avoiding responsibility erodes trust, weakens leadership potential, and creates dysfunction. This supports the idea that emotionally unintelligent behavior creates real-world dysfunction. All right, so emotional intelligence explains nearly 90% of leadership difference. All right, 90% of leadership difference is basically nearly 90% of the difference between star leaders and average leaders was linked to emotional intelligence factors. So without EQ, you are just, excuse someone in my eye. Without EQ, you are just an average leader. But if you want to be a star leader or superstar leader, you have to be able to flow and be able to resolve issues, resolve conflict, have empathy, be accountable when it's time for you. Just because you're a leader doesn't mean there's a different playbook for you. And I see that now in the corporate world, is that leaders believe that there's a different playbook for them. Oh, I don't have to be as accountable as everyone else. I don't have to be as empathetic as everyone else. But in fact, you do. You lose respect when you're not able to play the same game that you're coaching. Okay? Think about that. We think about some of these sports shows, and these sports shows have these commentators that have never played basketball, never played football, or have minimal knowledge of it, but they have such a level of expertise observing it. Well, yeah, you could observe it and talk from afar, but you don't know what it's like, right? And those commentators lose credibility, right? So if you're going to be a leader, you have to be able to follow the same rules in the same conditions that everyone else is under and be able to do it successfully. All right. So what this suggests is that leadership failures are often not caused by a lack of technical knowledge, but by ego. I've seen this. Oh my God. An inflated sense of self leads to poor decisions, lack of humility, and resistance to feedback. Oh, this is so real. I've seen this. In previous jobs, I've told the truth to the leaders. And if the leaders had to stand in that mirror from that truth that I told them, oh man, you should see how they would react. They would retaliate. I had one guy that this was my manager. He was the leader of the team that I was on. I told this guy the truth one day about himself. He didn't speak to me for 7 months. Literally. He didn't email me. He didn't pull me to the side. And we're on a team. But his emotional intelligence was so low that he was broken by that mirror that I had held up to him. And I did it respectfully. I did it honorably. I did it with good intent. The goal was to help us grow and help him become a better leader, and overall the team a better team. But his ego wouldn't let him do it. Next up was defensiveness. Defensiveness shuts down conversations, prevents accountability, and blocks growth. Poor communication. Ineffective communication creates confusion, erodes trust, and leads to misunderstanding and mistakes. Emotional instability. This was another one he suffered from. He just couldn't stay stable. So much pressure was breaking him down. He used to always rub his head and put his hands in his face in his hands, and you could see this guy. And I mean, he had all of the credentials in the world, so many credentials, degrees, certifications, all of these things. But I'm looking at this guy, and I would see him, and I would see that he was like lacking emotional intelligence. If he was a doctorate level in intelligence where he had high IQ, he was probably in the 5th grade when it came to his emotional intelligence, right? And then last but not least, inability to regulate stress. Leaders who cannot manage stress overwhelm themselves and their teams, reducing performance and results, right? And you see that all of the time. When your leaders, when you want to see why a team is performing the way it is, look at the leader. It'll tell you everything you need to know, right? Strong leadership is built on emotional intelligence. When leaders understand themselves, manage their emotions, and connect with others, they create trust, drive performance, and inspire lasting impact. Okay? Next up, only 21% of employees are engaged at work globally. All right. So the same report noted that 60% are emotionally detached, where they're not emotionally attached to the work that they do. That's why, I do a lot of nonprofit work, a lot of helping people work, because I'm emotionally attached to that. But they're saying 60% of people aren't. 1 in 5 are miserable at work. All right. Think about that. We have to work to survive. And work matters, right? Some of us didn't, grow up to be what we said we were going to be when we were children. We end up in these alternate timelines where we're working at other places and we're miserable there. Why are we miserable there? Low emotional intelligence. If these are my circumstances that I must deal with to survive, why am I feeling miserable about them? I have to have the emotional intelligence to take those feelings of misery that I feel about this job and convert them into logic that I need this job to survive. If I have to do something, if I had to peel 1,000 potatoes, I would rather peel 1,000 potatoes happy than peel 1,000 potatoes sad. That's a totally different experience. And it's going to be a totally different level of quality of work. All right. So referenced in EQ and workplace research, globally, only 21% of employees are engaged at work. We said that. Now, what this suggests, large portions of humanity experience emotional disconnections. Employees feel disconnected, undervalued, or unvalued, and disengaged from their work and their organization. Burnout. This is a huge one. I struggled with this one for years, the burnout piece, where it's chronic exhaustion from prolonged stress and overwhelm leads to physical, emotional, and mental depletion. That is a real thing. But you have to be emotionally intelligent enough to manage that. It's not always going to be perfect, but there are frameworks and things out here that help you manage burnout. Okay? But to me, if you have high emotional intelligence, hey, I feel overwhelmed. Hey, I got this deadline. Hey, I need a break. I need to take a couple of days of PTO. You have to manage that. And part of that management is emotional intelligence. All right. Stress. High stress levels impact well-being, productivity, focus, and long-term health. Again, you want emotionally intelligent employees that are able to handle their candle. Okay. Handle What's on your plate? Be able to handle it. I don't think it would be there if you couldn't handle it, but you have to be able to handle it. Stress is a part of life, and stress is how you perceive a problem. You don't have to perceive a problem as stressful. You could perceive it as challenging. You could perceive it as something that requires a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be stressful to you as long as you're putting in the work. Next up is lack of psychological safety. Employees don't feel safe to speak up, take risks, or be themselves at work. Poor emotional workplace culture. Unsupportive environments create negativity, conflict, and low morale. Now, low engagement isn't just a statistic, it's a global humanity problem. Improving emotional intelligence at work can transform individuals, teams, and the world, right? So these are the issues we're facing, right? Fewer than 20% of companies qualify as emotionally intelligent organizations. That means that 80% of the companies, the jobs on job boards and job sites, you get a job there, you're going to be around a bunch of people with low EQ or no EQ potentially, right? If fewer than 20% qualify as emotionally intelligent, the Niagara Institute reported fewer than 20% companies qualify as emotionally intelligent organization. What this suggests, many systems still struggle with unhealthy leadership, poor communication, blame culture, emotional reactivity, lack of empathy, and accountability. Emotionally intelligent organizations don't just perform better, they create healthier, stronger teams and sustainable success. So think about that. Next time you go to fill out a job, maybe when they ask you, you go to your job interview, hey, any questions for us? Hey, what do you think the culture is here? Tell me more about the culture. Is it a more emotionally intelligent in culture, or like what's going on here? These are the questions you want to ask, because remember, according to the statistic, 80% of the places you're going to go to, you're going to find probably some wonderful people with high IQ, but they're going to have low EQ. All right. Something's going to happen. Something's not going to go their way. They're going to lash out. They're going to crash out. They're going to try to get you fired, try to get your job taken from you. All of these things because they are lacking the emotional intelligent or emotionally intelligent or emotional regulation skills that they need to resolve conflicts and different things at work. All right. Next up. Emotional intelligence has declined globally since 2019. Now, we know 2019 was around the time that the pandemic hit, and it makes perfect sense. Emotional intelligence goes down, right? People aren't going out every day to deal with other people. They're taking a break from human connection and, things, skills that they put together over time kind of decline because they're not in contact with people and stuff like that. So it makes sense. A 2025 NIH hosted study found there was a marked and sustained decline in emotional intelligence between 2019 and 2024. What this suggests, modern stressors may be worsening. Emotional regulation is getting worse. Empathy is getting worse. Communication and social connection are all getting worse. Now, the contributing factors to these modern stressors worsening could be social media overload. Constant stimulation reduces attention, empathy, and real-world connection. Chronic stress. Prolonged stress impacts the brain's ability to regulate emotions and think clearly. Less face-to-face interaction leads to loneliness and weaker social skills. Isolation, right? Political division. Increased polarization fuels conflict, judgment, and lack of understanding. Right? I don't get the political piece. I just, it's called no self-hate for a reason at many levels. But the most important level is at the human level. Humans hate humans, from what I could observe. In political division, groups, I'm part of this group, you're part of that group. Remember, I only know one group. That's humans. I don't care how you try to chop them up and classify them They're still humans, right? But I just don't understand. It's like we're looking for a reason to disagree with each other. And it's almost like it's involuntary. It's autonomous in nature within us. It's like we've been programmed to do that. Moving on. Digital communication replacing human connection. Text-based interactions lack tone, nuance, and empathy. All right. So emotional intelligence is not just declining, it's affecting our relationships, workplaces, and future. Rebuilding emotional intelligence is essential for a healthier and more connected world. Got a few more for you here. Emotional intelligence in divorce. Now, we talked about the workplace. Okay. We talked about how the workplace changed and how low EQ is affecting the workplace. Now, let's think about relationships. Emotional intelligence and divorce. Strong relationships aren't just above love. They're about not just about love, but they're about emotional skills. Relationships, people that have been married 50 years. Do you think they didn't have challenges? You think they didn't have hurdles that could have ended up seeing them separated? They probably did. But they had the emotional intelligence to let the logical side outweigh the emotional side. Let what's better for the group outweigh what's better for me. Right? I had a friend, I was at work last week and I was talking to him. He said, my sisters got divorced. And I was like, man, both of them? He's like, yes, both of them. I'm like, man, that's tough. I was like, what? You know what happened? And he was like, no. He said, oh yeah. He's like, nah, I don't know what happened, but I'm willing to guess what happened. So a few things in society that some people are taught is that, oh, if your spouse cheats on you, leave them. Then we have to ask ourselves, is cheating worth destroying a family? If a person cheats, is it worth separating the family? Does your selfish emotions outweigh what's beneficial for the family, for a person that may be going through some type of trauma, that may be going through some type of something that they need some help with? Instead of helping them, you leave them. And you got kids with that person. So now you split your family because selfishly, you were hurt. But logically, you leaving that person means your child grows up with one less parent. And we know the statistics that say if your child grows up in a one-parent household, what they're more likely to be. But you made that decision because your feelings were hurt and you were conditioned. They told you on all your shows that you watch, if he cheat, I gotta leave. Well, you got 3 kids with him. You telling me you can't forgive that for your children? You can't send that person to go to counseling with that person and get that person the help that they need? That person could really be a good person deep down. They're just having some troubles that they may need some help with. My point is, it's not worth throwing away your family because someone cheated on you, in my opinion. You have to have the emotional intelligence to say, hey, that hurt, but that hurt me. But if I leave this person, it's going to hurt my children. It's going to hurt their futures. So I have to sacrifice me and get this person the help that they need so that we can continue building this family and make it through this tough time. All right. Sorry about that rant, but it just came to mind when I thought about divorce. Cheating, I get it. If it's repetitive, if a person keeps doing it over, I get it. You can't reach that person. I see that potentially being a path, but if you met that person and you weren't that person's first love, I just don't understand why a person, a man or female, would leave their spouse for cheating once and destroy their family. I just never understood that. It still baffles me. If you have any answers or any understanding for me, please share it in the comments. I definitely read all of the comments. So let me know. What am I not understanding there? That a woman with 3 children who has a husband who committed adultery or did something wrong, and he's a human, he's going to make mistakes, doesn't pacify it, doesn't excuse it. He could still be held accountable for it without you breaking up your family, is what I'm saying. All right. Next up, research snapshot. A peer-reviewed NIH-hosted study showed that 40.8% emotional intelligence accounted for approximately 40.8% of marital satisfaction in the studied regions. What this means, emotional intelligence plays a powerful role in the health, stability, and satisfactions of marriages. Love brings you together. Emotional intelligence keeps you together and keeps you connected, keeps the family whole, keeps the family together. You know, I look at my community and I look at the single parent rate, and there are a lot of contributing factors there. But believe it or not, it is my belief that at the root of all of those contributing factors is low emotional intelligence and low IQ, period. At the root, the foundation of all these failures are people with minimal conflict resolution skills, people that are hurt, broken, unhealed, trying to make it work together, and it ends up failing because they're unhealed, because they're carrying luggage, because they're all these things. All right, so lower EQ is associated with poor communication, emotional withdrawal, defensiveness. So poor communication, you and your spouse always arguing. If you're at home right now, you got a spouse that you've argued with in the last 6 months, something's wrong. You shouldn't be arguing with your spouse. You should have the emotional intelligence to be able to effectively communicate with your spouse. If you have the skills and the education in self that you need and in relationships, you should be able to communicate. Emotional withdrawal. Somebody gets hurt and then I won't talk to him to retaliate, or I won't talk to her for some days. That's not going to help. It's going to prolong the issue. You have to have the emotional intelligence to go into it and work out a solution. Defensiveness, which is basically super low EQ. It's you personalizing things. Unresolved conflict. You try to have a conversation with somebody, it turns into an argument, you never talk about it again. That person's still walking around with that information within them, holding it hostage. And then reduced empathy. You feel someone deserves something because they did something, right? What this suggests, many relationship struggles may be connected to emotional dysregulation, poor communication skills, low empathy, inability to repair conflict, unresolved shame, and defensiveness. Some real world examples: couples emotionally shutting down instead of communicating, passive aggression replacing honest dialogue, defensiveness during accountability conversations. Remember, we said defensiveness is a behavior of unaccountable people. Emotional withdrawal and resentment building over time. Not resolving those issues builds withdrawal and resentment. You feel like you're not being heard, right? Emotional intelligence is the bridge between love and lasting connection. Stronger emotional skills, healthier relationships, stronger families, stronger society. Divorce and emotional distress statistics. The Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies reports approximately 50% of first marriages end in divorce. Wow. 50% of first marriages end in divorce. I'm willing to bet if emotional intelligence was taught from kindergarten to 12th grade, that number would significantly drop. Okay? Approximately 20% of married couples experience significant marital distress at any given time. What this suggests, large portions of society struggle with emotional connection, difficulty building and maintaining deep, meaningful bonds, because you get scared, you You get your trust. You're scared to trust somebody because you've been hurt from some trauma that you're carrying with you from back in the day. So you can't fully immerse yourself in bonding with your partner. So the emotional connection isn't as strong as what it needs to be. Conflict resolution, challenges managing disagreements in healthy, productive ways. Emotional safety, struggles creating environments where both partners feel safe, valued, and understood. We talked about that. Psychological safety, where a person is able to express themselves freely, uninterrupted, and you're not reacting a certain way because you disagree with how they're expressing themselves, and allowing them to do that. That's what's opening the line of communications. People carry that information within them and carry those feelings. If they aren't allowed to get them out, or they don't feel safe getting them out, it's going to go somewhere else. Long-term relational repair, difficulty repairing hurts, rebuilding trust, and growing together over time. Long-term relational repair. The best thing there is unconditional forgiveness. Once you choose to love someone and be with someone, you choose to love them and be with them. Part of that is unconditional forgiveness. Right? Assuming it isn't too crazy, right? But depending on your religion or whatever you are, it says that through sickness and health, through all things, unconditional forgiveness is a necessity for strong relationships. Humans are prone to error. If we know humans are prone to error, eventually they will make a mistake. So we could count on humans making a mistake at some point. Don't wait for that mistake to happen. Like, I told you, you weren't perfect, so I gotta go. No. Work through your problems. All right, these statistics highlight a critical need for stronger emotional skills and support in relationships and family. Build emotional awareness, improve communication skills, practice empathy and understanding, commit to repair and growth, strengthen families, and that overall strengthens society. Loneliness and social isolation. I've been seeing this a lot since the pandemic. The data shows a global and national loneliness crisis. World Health Organization reported 1 in 6 people globally are affected by loneliness. How are you surrounded by humans and lonely? Your social skills are lacking. Seek knowledge every day of your life. Seek knowledge. It's too much to learn, and it can impact you if you don't learn it. You must learn how to be social, have social skills, right? When I was growing up, we had house phones. Okay, for those that don't know what that is, a house phone was a landline that the telephone company wired to your home. And this was before cell phones. So you had to receive a call, well, not before cell phones were popular. To receive a call, you would have to, so I would have a girlfriend. I had my girlfriend at school. I get out of school. She said, hey, I'm going to call you at 6. I have to hurry up and get home and be by that phone to get that call at 6 p.m. The point of me telling you that is that back then, you couldn't just go to a website, like a picture, and then get a girl. Text a girl and get a girl. No. We were caking on the phone for hours. We had to do cold walk-ups. Cold walk-ups is, if I saw a girl I liked, I had to go over there, had the courage to walk up to her, knowing she may reject me, knowing she may have a situation already, go over there, have the courage to talk to her, and then try to get her phone number because we got landlines, right? And then go from there, right? So it kind of removes that loneliness piece, because in order to have anyone, there was no internet, there was no MySpace, there was no Facebook, there was none of this. You had to go do these things in person. But now that all of these other things have come into play, people are finding themselves lonely because they're not being as social as they need to be. All right. So loneliness is a serious public health issue that affects health, well-being, and quality of life. The CDC reports that 1 in 3 adults, U.S. adults, feel lonely. 1 in 4 adults report lacking social and emotional support. Strong social and emotional connections are essential for physical and mental health. All right. What this suggests is that there's a weakening human connection. Fewer meaningful relationships and face-to-face interactions are leaving people feeling disconnected. Emotional isolation. More people are feeling alone, misunderstood, and emotionally disconnected from others. Reduced empathy and communication. Less meaningful communication can lead to misunderstandings, conflict, and reduced compassion. Increased emotional disconnection. Despite being more digitally connected than ever, many people feel more alone than ever before. Humans are built for connection. Loneliness doesn't just affect how we feel, it affects our health, relationships, and communities. Rebuilding connection is essential for a healthier, more compassionate society. Social isolation and mental health, the hidden health crises affecting millions worldwide. And again, all of this, I know it's a lot, but I need you to understand the emotional intelligence crisis we're in. I brought evidence. I need you to see that this is something you must fix within yourself. It is a personal responsibility. Or your marriage may suffer. Or you might be isolated. Or you might not be able to get a good job. That's how important this stuff is, all right? So research shows loneliness and emotional isolation are associated with depression, anxiety, stress, physical health decline, increased mortality risk. Who reported loneliness is linked to more than 871,000 deaths annually, globally. Loneliness is a serious global public health issue that can be as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. What this suggests, humans are emotionally and biologically built for connection, belonging, emotional support, healthy communication. A decline in emotional intelligence may weaken social bonds and emotional health. All right. Stronger connection leads to better mental, emotional, and physical health for individuals and community. Invest in connection, protect health, save lives. Remember, you are not alone. You're surrounded by billions of humans. Connection changes lives, right? But you have to have the emotional intelligence to maintain these relationships. You have to have the self-awareness, the courage to take risks in social situations, to meet someone, to connect with someone. You have to be emotionally intelligent. I remember the guys, we used to call them, before incels, there was another word for it, but I forget what it was. But basically incels, and we have nothing against incels, but in my opinion, I remember them growing up, and these were the guys that were afraid to talk to girls, right? Girls would walk by looking at them in their eyes, waving at them. They would freeze up and go through like this psychological thing that I guess it was insecurities or something, but they never wanted to go talk to the girls. They were cool hanging out with each other. A bunch of guys with no girlfriends hanging out with each other, playing video games all day, and they're letting those video games replace their connection or their need for a woman. And then they become best friends. Oh, this is my best friend. How do you have a best friend without a partner, without someone to grow and to discover love with? I never understood that. I used to tell them that all of the time. Like, hey man, you are a man, sir. You were meant to have a connection. I prefer a connection with a beautiful woman. I prefer that connection. You prefer whatever connection you want, but have some connections. Other than playing Halo all night. Other than playing the latest video games with 6 guys in a party on a video game, and you're letting that replace your connection. You're telling them about your life. You're telling them your feelings, what's going on in your life. You should be sharing this with your spouse, with a potential partner, right? And that brings in a whole nother subject. I believe it's called, well, I won't touch on it, but still, like, go talk to someone. Have the mental health to be able to connect. You're not alone. You're just scared. You're just insecure. You're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of failure. Take some risks. You only live once. You don't get back any minute you let go. Once it's gone, it's gone. Enjoy this life. That's why it's billions of us down here. We were meant to be together. We were meant to help each other. We were meant to collaborate. We were meant to love each other. We were meant to build each other. Okay? Poverty and emotional regulation. Oof. Poverty. A lot of people don't understand, and I escaped poverty. And it was a tough journey, and a lot of people, may not know how to do it. It was a tough one. It was a very tough journey to escape poverty. But it can be done. The most suppressing part of poverty is how it affects your mind. The value, the worth that you feel, your ambition or ambitions, the environment you're in. All of these things are socially conditioning you. If you're watching this video and you're in poverty, I'll say poverty in today with inflation is under $60,000, $50,000 a year in Chicago. Chicago is a big city, costs a lot of money to live here. Los Angeles is even worse. But if you're making under $60,000, you are in some form of poverty, in my opinion. How do you get out of it? How do you break the cycles? How do you move up? You educate yourself. You go learn something that you can trade. You go learn something that an organization may need. You lock in. You educate yourself. The first step to escaping poverty is education. You must educate yourself. I have a friend that's been experiencing forms of poverty for over 30 years. Why? What's the thing here that he never did? He never went and got an education. So whenever he goes to apply for a job, the most he can make is $20 an hour. $20 an hour with today's inflations? Gas is $5 a gallon. But he tried to, it's like he was trying to, I don't know. It's like he thought that if he worked hard enough, he was going to get out of poverty, but that's not how it works. All you're going to do is eat up all your time. You'll be having 16-hour days trying to make some money. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people work hard, but I'm telling you, the easy route to escaping poverty is emotional intelligence and education. All right. Just had to throw that out there. As a person that escaped poverty myself, I didn't do it through YouTube or videos. I don't get paid for this stuff. I'm doing this to help myself and to help my family and to help those out there that need help. But I escaped it through education, through information technology, through information security systems. I went and got an education. My whole life changed. Right? A lot of people don't know. I was telling my friend, you only need $20,000 and about a 680 credit score to go buy you some property and buy you a house. You need a $20,000 down payment. You need a good job for at least 2 years, at least a 680 credit score. No collections on your credit. Go buy your house in the burbs or wherever you want to live. But you need an education to get to that money. Because if not, that $20,000 is going to take you a year to save if you're working regular jobs, minimum wage jobs. And it's a cycle. Another thing that helped me escape poverty was teammates. You got to have people working with you. You got to have people that you want to see do well and they want to see you do well. You can't have people in your life that's setting you up to throw your freedom away, setting you up to devalue yourself. You know, you have to work together, but it can be done. Just want to throw that out there. All right. So research shows poverty impacts more than finances. It shapes emotional and psychological development. Research shows that NIH hosted and APA supported research found childhood poverty is strongly associated with emotional dysregulation. Imagine. Chronic stress, long-term psychological difficulties. Poverty and low EQ kind of are synonymous. They go together. Enhance your emotional intelligence. Enhance your IQ. Get paperwork. Start a business. You don't have to you can educate yourself in entrepreneurship. You can educate yourself in being your own boss, whatever it is. You could get up out that situation. And what's holding you there right now, what got you stuck, is you see everybody else around you being comfortable in poverty. Poverty should drive the skin off your flesh. You should be repulsed that you don't have the resources to get the things that you want in life. You need to take that energy and let that drive you towards your goals, towards your education, towards success. All right? And I'm sorry I got passionate about that one, but I'm firsthand knowledge. I know how that goes. I got up out that thing just by putting in the work. It took years, but I put the work in. Now I'm enjoying a better life. Is it the greatest life? Is it the best? It's enough. Take care of my family, take care of my kids, not have to live in a horrible neighborhood and all of these other things. All right. So additional research found poverty-related adversity impacts emotional self-regulation, stress response systems, brain development related to emotional control. Oof. Chronic adversity in childhood can shape the brain and body in ways that make emotional regulation much harder. Talk about that social conditioning piece. If you're watching people handle stress a certain way, more than likely you're going to handle stress a certain way. We talk about mimetic desires. Mimetic desires is how you learned what to like or how you learned what to do. You saw that behavior from people in your community and you thought it was okay, right? Somebody called you out your name, you were taught to go fight and potentially risk getting arrested and not being able to be successful in the workforce because you got an arrest record. The music you listened to told you to go get high and go spend all your money on things that don't have value. It had a good beat to it, but you listened to it and you liked it. Where'd the music get you? Where'd your favorite artist get you? Still in poverty? You have to free yourself. Don't be an emotional NPC, non-playable character, or a program, a human that's emotionally programmed to react and only react a certain way. Expand your horizons, do more, learn more, all right? So what this suggests, poverty does not simply affect finances. It can also affect emotional development, stress tolerance, communication, emotional regulation, and psychological safety. Poverty creates barriers. Compassion and support create opportunities. Addressing poverty is not just about economic aid, it's about protecting emotional health, brain development, and the future of individuals and communities. And I mean, I remember being in poverty. I remember seeing neighbors going crazy about the smallest things. Like it was crazy. And I realize now poverty is just, for me, it was just being surrounded by bad role models that had low emotional intelligence, that were freaking out. And we would watch that and we would think that was cool. Oh man, you saw what's name got into it with this other person, and he ain't let him do it, man. He beat him up, and all these irrelevant subjects and activities going on. Don't pay attention to that. Every day, educate yourself. Go sign up to college if you ain't been to college yet. You can't make it without an education. You can, but you got to be an entrepreneur, and even that requires an education. So education is mandatory for escaping poverty. But you can do it. We can't help what we're born into, but we can sure help how we get out of it. All right? Social media, isolation, and emotional intelligence. All right. So recent research suggests that modern digital environments may worsen loneliness, emotional dependencies, relying on likes, comments, and notifications for self-worth, social isolation, less real-life connection, and stronger digital dependence, emotional comparison culture, constant comparison leads to insecurity, envy, and low self-esteem. All of these are coming from social media. All right. What this suggests, technology can connect people digitally while disconnecting them emotionally. Potential contributing factors include reduced face-to-face communication, emotional overstimulation, constant content, notifications, and alerts overload the brain and increase stress, outrage-driven algorithms, platforms prioritize anger and division, fueling negativity and emotional reactivity. Oof. Outrage-driven algorithms. Is a YouTuber that says the three C's. I forget exactly what he said, but he said the three C's, like conflict, confrontation, controversy, are the algorithm's main parts. And they know we get stimulation from seeing people fight, from seeing people have arguments, from seeing people have beef, and all of these other things. These are outrage-driven algorithms. Next up is shortened attention spans. Rapid scrolling and multitasking reduce focus, presence, and deep connection. Constant comparison and validation seeking. Seeking approval online creates insecurity and emotional instability. You should be seeking approval from yourself and the people that helped you get here. You should be looking to them for approval. But I understand there's a deeper rabbit hole there. And maybe we'll touch on that one day. But yeah, social media isn't life. I realized that about 12, 13 years ago. Facebook had first came out, and I realized I was on Facebook talking about where I'm going, and I'm making posts to see how many people gonna like it, and I actually got endorphins and feelings from seeing certain people like it, and I felt something from it, like they noticed me. I unplugged from it after that because I realized at that point that it's just a bunch of like people trying to belong. And I knew I belonged already. I had a family. I got good people. I got obligations. I got goals. I got purpose. I had purpose. I have purpose. So once I realized that the purpose that I had was greater than anything Instagram, Facebook could ever give me, changed my life, And, I hope if anyone that is out here that's struggling with the social media piece where, you know you're one of those people. Um, you can fix it. Just start loving yourself. You're the algorithm. You're the Instagram. You're the Facebook. You're the Twitch, the Twitter, the X. Within self. You're the trending topic. Accept who you are. Accept what you are. Accept where you're going or where you want to go. Worry about other folks' journeys. It's called envy. Your desires are being created by others. The things you think to like are being created by others. Do it yourself. Easier said than done for some. All right. All right. So now that we've gone through the statistics, and I hope I made my case to you all that this is definitely a crisis for humanity, being that we're so advanced in technology, but we don't really have the EQ skills that we need, emotional intelligence skills, to match that level of advancement in technology. What do the numbers say about humanity? And that's very important. So let's look at what we have here. All right, so humanity is intellectually advanced but emotionally uneven, and we just went through that and saw that in those statistics that that's the case, right? So technologically advanced, emotionally underdeveloped. It's what I can read from the numbers we just went through. We've built an incredible world, but many of us still struggle with ourselves. Humans have developed advanced technologies, innovations that simplify, connect, and empower. AI, intelligent systems that learn, adapt, and solve complex problems. Medicine, life-saving treatments and longer, healthier lives. Transportation, travel across vast distances in hours, not months. Global communication systems, instant connection across the entire world. We are great on that side, right? But many people still struggle with emotional regulation, difficulty managing feelings and reactions, communication, empathy, accountability, emotional maturity, right? An example, humanity can communicate globally in seconds, yet many conversations still become hostile, defensive, emotionally reactive, divisive. This shows that technological advancement does not automatically equal emotional advancement. All right. The future isn't just about building smarter systems, it's about building wiser humans. All right. Know yourself, understand others, communicate better, grow together, build a better world. All right. That's what we're trying to do. That's what No Self Hate is trying to get started, or join the organizations that have been doing it for years, right? They understand this exact need as well. Many humans are operating from survival conditioning, right? We talked about social conditioning earlier, but survival conditioning now. Why many humans react in survival mode? Our nervous system often learns protection before it learns emotional regulation. A large percentage of human behavior is influenced by unresolved trauma, fear, insecurity, shame, chronic stress, emotional conditioning. These influences shape how the brain learns to survive before it learns to thrive emotionally. Okay? The survival response is threat receive, nervous system triggers, automatic survival response. Okay? The way we want it to go is safety and awareness, emotional regulation, thoughtful responses. The same trigger can lead to different outcomes depending on emotional awareness and nervous system regulation. All right. Humanity is still heavily influenced by survival-based emotional systems. Until people feel safe and seen, they will keep using the strategies that once helped them survive. All right. An example, someone may lash out during a disagreement. react from emotion, not clarity, avoid accountability, deflect, excuse, or blame instead of owning actions, become defensive quickly, emotionally shut down, withdraw, disconnect, or numb out. Not because they are evil, but because their nervous system learned protection before emotional regulation. The goal is not to judge, the goal is to understand, heal, and grow. Awareness creates the bridge, all right, that we need for that, uh, from survival to self awareness. Okay. Understand your triggers, moving from survival to self-awareness. And we want to move from these survival reactions to self-awareness. Understand your triggers, regulate your nervous system. Okay. Calm creates choice. Communicate with intention, heal old wounds, build healthier relationships, choose response over reaction. When we heal our survival patterns, we don't just change our lives, we change generations. Society often rewards low emotional intelligence. All right, that's what I'm seeing from this. Okay, in many environments, people are rewarded for aggression, domination, ego protection, emotional suppression, outrage, emotional performance. These behaviors often lead to attention, influence, likes, shares, power, status, and short-term wins. So you see how we're being conditioned into a low emotional reward system? I wonder why. What? How did society get to this reward system where you're rewarded for ego protection, defending your image, status, and being right? I was watching one of the commentators on the sports shows the other day, and this guy is never wrong. He has all the money in the world. I don't know if he has any real friends based on the way that he treats people, but has all the money in the world and he's doing really well for himself, but he's never wrong. He's never wrong. He believes in debate. He believes that as long as he's a debater, he has to stand on his side of the fence, even if his side of the fence is wrong. It's because he has to protect his image and his ego. Right? That's what they do. Right? He gets rewarded. He literally got rewarded for being unintelligent emotionally. Well, to a certain level. He has some intelligence, some emotional intelligence, but to a certain level, and then, gets into arguments with his coworkers on camera, berates, belittles, down talks, downward towards his coworkers and different things like that. Right? But he's being rewarded for that. He has a show, #1 show in the world, been #1 for years. Right? He capitalized off low emotional intelligence. Okay? So, the problem, vulnerability, empathy, emotional openness, and accountability are often viewed as weaknesses. So, to be vulnerable means you're weak in society. To have empathy means you're soft. Emotional openness means you might be a little strange, is how some people look at that. And accountability is just someone to blame something on, and they're viewed as weaknesses in society. Okay? As a result, emotionally intelligent behaviors are undervalued, even though they create stronger relationships, trust, and long-term success. All right? The impact normalizes toxic behavior, trains our brains to react and not reflect, erodes empathy, weakens relationships, and damages society overall when we reward low emotional intelligence. Another example is social media algorithms often reward outrage. Anger gets attention and drives engagement. Emotional extremes. Extreme content spreads faster than balanced content. And do you see what the content game is turning into? It's like, we'll do anything for content, right? And I get it. It's a place to make money. It's a place to do things. But when people are getting hurt, when you are splitting yourself into two people, a person who you are at home and a person you have to be on the internet so that people will like you. Number one, you're not being your genuine self, and you're selling people a phony version of you, which has to be splitting your personality in ways where you are having conflict internally. Division, polarizing content keeps people engaged longer. So when they divide us, you know, it makes, oh, you guys over here, you guys over there. It's normally how we're rewarding because we're watching the videos. We're watching the emotional extremes. I've been looking on the internet and, oh, this so and so said this about this person, and what's the name? Check this person, and there's a beef brewing between this person, and every time I look up, it's people having beefs and back and forward and saying some of the wildest stuff for attention and doing anything for attention. Is where we're headed. That's the low intelligence. Is like, I didn't go to Harvard and graduate top of my class for attention. No. I went to one of my ops grave sites and dug it up. Like, what? Like, what are we doing? Just look at the trajectory we're at now and where we're going to be in the next 10 years if this continues. We have to stop rewarding this behavior. We control it. We're the one clicking on the videos. What is it about this information in these videos, this low EQ stuff, that's making us so happy? Is it that we see someone worse than us? Is it that we see someone willing to do anything more than we are? What is it? Comment on that. Let me know what you think. All right. So more than thoughtful discussion. So social media algorithms often reward outrage, emotional extremes, division, impulsive reactions. More than thoughtful discussion, emotional regulation, empathy. The result, this reinforces emotionally unintelligent behavior at scale. Now, I wonder why would they do that if they know it's doing it? Few questions. But yeah. All right. So we must consciously value and reward emotional intelligence. Choose empathy over ego, practice emotional regulation, encourage thoughtful dialogue, model vulnerability and accountability, build systems that reward connection, not just attention. When we evaluate EQ, we create a healthier culture for ourselves and for future generations. And I love doing that. I do watch a lot of the shows. One show that I watch where I like to look at everyone's EQ level is like these First Amendment auditors. And they go into public places and they have their cameras and they're recording people, and the people don't know the law that you're allowed to record in public, right? So the people come in and they're like, hey, why are you recording me? And he's like, oh, well, I'm just in here taking care of business, doing what I do. I got business. I have business here. They're like, well, I didn't give you permission to record me. Can you stop recording me? And then they go through all of these emotions and these reactions that are all unaccountable, that are malicious most of the time. And, they end up, cursing the First Amendment auditor out. They'll call the police on the First Amendment auditor and all of that. And I'm just looking like, wow, what if that person had emotional intelligence? Okay, someone's recording me that I don't know what's going on. I am in a public place. But not everyone knows this information, but I research stuff when I don't know. Are people allowed to record in public is what I would put in my phone. But, go through, okay, well, yeah, this person is allowed to do this. They're recording me. If I didn't want to be recorded, I probably shouldn't be in public. If I went to Walmart or to any other store, I'm being recorded. Maybe this person has a right to do this. And maybe I shouldn't engage this person. Or maybe I should ask some questions. Hey, how you doing? My name is so-and-so. I saw you over here recording, and hey, I mean, I'm not the most educated in legal things, but I just want to ask you, what's going on? Do you mind me asking why you're doing it? Not asking you from an authoritative position, but just from a curiosity. I just want to know what you have going on, right? And he explains, oh, well, I'm a First Amendment auditor, the right to record in public, so on and so forth. And the person's like, oh, okay, so that is definitely a law then. He's like, yeah, that's definitely a law. Okay, you've educated me and helped me understand something. Before I received this education from you, I was a little uncomfortable, but it could have been me. I had to make sure that I was in the right or whatever. And before I said anything or, tried to call the police on you or anything. So a lot of the times I watch these videos and I see some people that do excellent. Some cops walk up, the cops are like, hey man, you're all good to go. Hey, my name is officer whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're good to go. Go ahead, do your thing. I'm gonna go over here and talk to these people, let them know what's going on with the law. Right? You see some police officers do that. Then you see some that come up with low EQ. Hey, turn that camera off. He's like, oh, but I could do this in public. Well, you shouldn't be doing this in public. What's your name? I'm not going to give my name. So because he didn't give them his name, because the First Amendment auditor didn't give the police his name, now they're retaliating. Now they're talking to him crazy. They're interrupting them, over talking them, disrespecting them, all because of low emotional intelligence. The little, oh, he didn't want to give me his name and I'm in a position of authority. Okay, well, you have to get out of here. I'm willing to risk my job to kick you out of here because you hurt my ego. Like, you look at it. I want you to start looking at that stuff. Not necessarily First Amendment auditors, but being able to see when a person is in a tough situation and that they did well in it, that they survived it, that they did excellent. Okay? Next up, humanity has normalized emotional dysfunction. Okay? So, many unhealthy emotional behaviors are treated as normal. But what's normalized isn't always healthy. Awareness is the first step to change. So, unhealthy emotional behaviors often seen as normal. Toxic communication, criticism, blame, name calling, and disrespect. My son told me about that not too long ago. He was like, a form of toxic communication is name calling, right? And I was almost unaccountable because if we tell the truth about something, is it possible that you could name call in telling your truth? It's possible. But remember, we learned a few episodes ago that you have to learn how to package the truth and deliver the truth. You just can't throw the truth at someone. You could hurt them, right? Even though we know the truth hurts and it's the truth, doesn't mean we can't package it in a better way to deliver it. It's what I ended up with dealing with my son. Passive aggression is another normal behavior. Indirect hostility, sarcasm, silent treatment. I get that a lot in these corporate offices, working with, different people and, different titles. Last week, actually, I received some indirect hostility and sarcasm from, one of the higher ranking people. And, and I'm just, this wasn't last week. This was like last year. And pretty much, I didn't bite it. He said what he said in an email in front of everyone, and it was very passive aggressive, but I didn't bite it. I understood that he had low emotional intelligence. He was frustrated, or he had an issue with me and he had to work with me and he just didn't know how to deal with it. So how he truly felt about people like me truly came out, right? I'm no victim, no, because I used that information that he said in that email and I actually started a business with it. See that? See? Sometimes when people attack you or try or their emotional intelligence is so low that they seep out and affect your life, sometimes you have the choice to let it affect you negatively or positively. Now, he did what he did in the email. I could have reacted, hey man, why'd you do this? Why'd you send this and that? No, I took what he said and I was accountable. I acknowledged the truth. I took ownership. I acknowledged the impact. I apologized. I repaired, and I didn't repeat it again. Then I added an extra step. I created a business, a new business coming soon, new YouTube channel coming soon from that experience with that person. So actually, I'm grateful that he did what he did, right? But sometimes you can't get caught up. You know, people have low EQ. You can't get caught up in that with them. You can't come down to people level, no matter how much money they make, no matter what their title is. You have to hold yourself together. You have to self-regulate. You have to be aware. You have to be able to navigate these tough situations and choose the right thoughts in those situations. Choose the right ideas you want to have. Yes, I could have had the idea that maybe he was attacking me. Maybe he was, I could have been a victim, and maybe he's pulling a race car, all that stuff, right? Get that out the window. That's not going to make me happy. It doesn't feel good to think that. So I switched it over to maybe he's trying to educate me. Maybe he didn't do a great delivery of it, but maybe he's trying to actually help me because he didn't have to say anything. So I took it that way. I made the choice to take it in a positive way that built me and made me feel good about me and created another business. Next up, emotional avoidance, shutting down, withdrawing, or avoiding difficult conversations. I see a lot of people do this in the corporate world. Emotional suppression, explosive anger, losing control, yelling, outbursts, or reacting impulsively. These patterns can damage relationships, self-worth, and overall well-being, yet they are often overlooked or exceeded as just how people are. We are okay with people being barbarians emotionally because we are barbarians emotionally, but not after this, not after season 1, No Self-Hate. We are intellectuals emotionally. We are emotionally intellectual. We're moving forward. We can't wait on the rest of the world. We have to share it with them. We have to let them know what we're doing and hope that they take it and come forward with us. But we can no longer participate in this system of emotional barbarism. We must separate ourselves. And we do that through emotional intelligence. All right. So healthier emotional functioning is possible. Awareness, choice, change, freedom. From survival patterns to healthier choices. That's what we want to do. Choose a new legacy, break the cycle. Notice your patterns without judgment, understand where they come from, choose healthier responses daily, practice empathy and emotional awareness, build stronger relationships through honesty, create a future rooted in healing, not survival. People often inherit these behaviors that are considered to be normal through family systems, learned patterns from parents, caregivers, and family dynamics. Ask you a question. Do you think the people that raised you had an education in emotional intelligence? Do you? No. Not a thorough one, not like the one we're getting, not like the one we're receiving now. So it's safe to say a lot of us were raised in error because humans operate in error sometimes. And that operation in error normally comes from a lack of education in something, right? So the culture, societal norms, and cultural beliefs about emotions, roles, and communications has normalized emotional dysfunction, social conditioning, messages from schools, peers, media, and society about what is acceptable or strong, generational trauma, unresolved pain, and survival patterns passed down through families and generations. We inherit these patterns without realizing it, but we don't have to keep them. Healthier patterns can be learned, unlearned, and replaced. You can choose a new legacy for yourself, for your relationships, and for future generations. Excuse me, guys. All right. Last but not least, what the numbers say, humanity is still emotionally evolving. You see that? We go back to empathy. We could provide constructive criticisms, but we always got to go back to that empathy piece and go back to solutions, right? So the encouraging reality is that emotional intelligence can be learned. The good news is that emotional intelligence is not fixed. It is a skill set that can be developed. Research consistently shows emotional intelligence skills improve through awareness, education, therapy, reflection, communication practice, accountability, emotional regulation training. Okay. The science is clear. The brain is capable of change. All right. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to rewire and create new, healthier pathways. With effort and practice, emotional intelligence becomes stronger. Practice plus intention plus time equals transformation. This means humanity is not fixed. People can heal, people can improve, unlearn harmful patterns, become more emotionally intelligent. Okay? Every small step you take rewires your brain, strengthens your characters, and creates a better future for you in the world. All right? Awareness, knowledge, practice, growth, and impact. You are not stuck. You are capable of change. Emotional intelligence is a skill, and a skill can be mastered. All right. So, why do people struggle with emotional intelligence, or why do a lot of us struggle with emotional intelligence? And it's quite simple, but complicated. So let's go through it. So, lack of resources is number one. We talked about that. And that's why we have started this self-service mental health awareness journey where we go through, we gather the information, we go over the information to the best of our ability. We interpret that information to the best of our ability, and we apply that information to our lives. Again, it is emotional intelligence is a personal responsibility, but lack of resources can be one of the main reasons. And it's a reason that, there's a lack of resources when it comes to this. Right. So emotional intelligence isn't taught to everyone. Not everyone gets the start they deserve. Many people grow up without access to therapy, emotional education, healthy role models, safe emotional environments, mental health support. All right. For example, a child raised in a household filled with yelling, criticism, or emotional neglect may never learn emotional regulation, healthy communication, emotional safety. Why this matters. People often repeat what they are shown. Behavior patterns, beliefs, and ways of coping are learned consciously or not. If emotional intelligence was never modeled, okay, many people develop survival patterns instead of healthy emotional skills. Survival patterns might include defensiveness, people pleasing, avoidance, anger, or shutdown, distrust. The good news, these patterns can be unlearned. Healing is possible. Growth is always possible. A new pattern is possible. Awareness creates change. Learning builds new skills. Practice creates habits. Healing creates freedom. Growth creates a better future for you and others. You are not your past. You are capable of more. Emotional intelligence isn't just something you have or don't have. It's something you can build. Right? So keep that in mind. We're not talking about all of this to criticize. If I bring a truth to someone, I normally bring solutions with it, right? These are potential solutions, right? But you got to put the work in. So lack of resources is the number one reason why people struggle with emotional intelligence. Next up, poverty and chronic stress, which is a real thing. We talked about that earlier. Poverty is it's basically a video game on the toughest setting, right? But you could figure it out. You could beat it, right? So poverty creates long-term stress on the nervous system. Living in poverty keeps the body in a constant state of stress. Over time, this wear and tear affects the brain, emotions, and overall well-being. Chronic stress activates the body's stress response over and over, leading to long-term impact on mental and emotional health. Research shows chronic stress affects emotional regulation, focus, difficulty concentrating and staying on task, patience, lower tolerance for stress and greater frustration, emotional processing, harder to understand, express, and work through emotions, decision making, more reactive choices, and difficult planning for the future. An example, the survival mindset. Someone constantly worried about housing, food, bills, and safety may spend most of their energy on survival rather than emotional development. Why this matters? Survival focused environments often prioritize immediate safety, stress response, emotional protection, instead of reflection, healing, and emotional growth. The bigger truth is this does not mean people in poverty lack intelligence or value. Not saying that. It means chronic stress can make emotional development more difficult. And if you are not aware that this is what comes with poverty, that this is what comes with the pressure of survival, then you may be operating autonomously with chronic stress, with, you know, different things that blind you from what's really happening to you while you're going through poverty. When you're always worried about food, housing, bills, and safety, you don't take that time to yourself to go watch No Self Hate and get you some emotional intelligence, or go watch other channels, or go see a therapist, or go see all of these other things, because you're so worried about surviving. Survival is the most important thing. But we have to add emotional intelligence to that list as well. It's not a character flaw, it's a condition. Chronic stress rewires the brain for survival, not for growth, right? Support, stability, and safety can change trajectories. All right. These are not luxuries, they are foundations for healing and growth. Change is possible. When stress is reduced and needs are met, people can heal, thrive, and reach their full potential. I'm not going to lie. Life started for me when I got out of poverty. Well, a new life started for me when I got out of poverty. I just didn't see things the same. I didn't feel the fears and the stress and the pressure as much. You know, I knew I had a way to pay my bills. That allowed me to open up another part of my mind where I wasn't constantly worried about survival, that I created no self-hate, that I created all of these other things. Once I was free from the fears and the pressures of poverty, my mind opened up and was able to become freer than I've ever been, right? Next up, lack of knowledge seeking. Seek knowledge. I want you to picture yourself as an organic AI. And instead of being connected to a massive database of information like regular AI is, your way of getting connected to a database of information is through reading, through learning, through watching videos. The more you learn, the more you read, the more information you download, the more your organic AI systems are smarter and stronger and aware of more things. All right. So we must seek knowledge all of the time, but many people struggle with emotional intelligence because they don't seek knowledge. Emotional intelligence isn't automatic. It's a skill. Not everyone is encouraged to develop it, right? Some people are never encouraged to self-reflect, learn psychology, improve communication, explore emotional health. Others avoid growth because discomfort feels threatening. Remember, get comfortable. You have to find comfort in discomfort, right? Ego resists change. Admitting flaws or unlearning old patterns can feel like a threat to identity. Emotional learning was never valued. They were never shown that emotions matter or that growth is possible. For example, someone may spend years learning professional skills while never learning how to regulate anger, how to communicate effectively, how to process emotions. Why this matters? Emotional intelligence requires intentional learning and practice. It doesn't develop on its own. You have to choose growth. Without growth, people repeat emotional patterns. They react instead of respond. Relationships suffer. Stress, regret, and dissatisfaction increase. With growth, awareness creates choice. Better communication builds connection. Emotional regulation brings inner peace. Healthier relationships and a better life. Growth is a choice. Awareness is the first step. You can learn, you can change, you can build emotional intelligence. Now, the other reason people struggle with emotional intelligence is unresolved trauma and survival conditioning. We talked about that earlier. Unresolved trauma changes how the nervous system responds to stress in relationships. Past experiences shape present reactions, often without us even realizing it. The bottom line is, trauma isn't about what's wrong with you, it's about what happened to you. What is unresolved trauma? Trauma is an emotional experience that overwhelms our ability to cope. When it isn't processed, and you could check out episode 2, How to Resolve Trauma. It covers all of this. But when it isn't processed or healed, it stays stored in the body and nervous system. This affects how we think, feel, and respond, especially under stress. How trauma changes responses. The nervous system learns to prioritize survival over connection, always on alert. The body expects threat even when it's not there. Defensive patterns. Old wounds trigger automatic reactions to protect. Overwhelm and shut down. When overwhelmed, the system may fight, freeze, or shut down. Okay? An example. Someone who experienced emotional rejection may become defensive quickly. They may interpret neutral situations as threats and react with defensiveness, irritability, or blame. Struggle with trust. They may find it hard to believe others' intentions are safe or kind. Shut down emotionally during conflict. They may disconnect, withdraw, or go silent to avoid further pain. Why this matters. Trauma can make accountability, vulnerability, and emotional openness feel unsafe. Accountability feels threatening. Taking responsibility can feel like admitting fault, triggering shame or fear of rejection instead of growth. Vulnerability feels risky. Opening up can feel dangerous if past experiences taught that vulnerability led to hurt or abandonment. Let's pause there now. I watch a lot of people in these relationships keep going from relationship to relationship, experiencing the same thing. I'm wondering if their past traumas are dictating their future outcomes. Maybe. Emotional openness feels unsafe. Expressing feelings can feel overwhelming or exposing, so people may minimize, avoid, or dismiss their emotions. These reactions are not character flaws, they are survival strategies that once helped protect against pain. Healing is possible. When trauma is acknowledged and healed, the nervous system can learn a new way. More safety, the body learns it's safe to relax, more trust, relationships feel more secure, more connection, emotional openness becomes possible, more growth, you can show up, heal, and thrive. Remember, you are not broken, you are adapting. With understanding, support, and healing, new patterns are possible, right? And last but not least, social conditioning is one of the main reasons why people struggle with emotional intelligence. Right? So, gotta do it once every episode. Wouldn't be us. So, social conditioning shapes how we learn to think, feel, and respond. The messages we receive growing up become the patterns we carry into our relationships, work, and self-worth. The bottom line is our early lessons about emotions become our automatic responses until we choose to unlearn and grow. How social conditioning shapes us. Social conditioning influences how people learn to express emotions, handle conflict, respond to criticism, communicate with others, right? So that handle conflict. Again, I told you in the community I grew up with, if someone did something to you or said something about you that they didn't like or that you didn't like, we were socially conditioned to become violent or barbaric or barbarians. You know, an inability to express our emotions. Like that's how it was with us, you know, growing up where I grew up. Hey, oh, somebody did something you didn't like, oh, they're smarter than you, or they got the leverage here. All right, we'll go whoop their butt, go beat them up. Right? That's social conditioning. The lessons are often learned without awareness through family, culture, society, media, and environment. So, for example, messages we may have heard. Someone raised hearing stop crying, don't show weakness, always defend yourself may lead to suppress emotions, become defensive, avoid vulnerability, struggle with accountability. These are survival strategies learned early, not character flaws. Okay, so why this matters. Social conditioning can teach people to protect ego over growth, fear vulnerability, suppress emotions. Emotional intelligence often requires unlearning unhealthy emotional behaviors and developing healthier emotional skills. The good news, you can rewrite the pattern. Awareness, understanding, unlearning, learning new skills, and building new patterns. You are not stuck with the lessons you learn. You have the power to choose new ones. Growth is always possible. All right, so why emotional intelligence matters for the future of humanity? It's very important. Right, so technology is rapidly advancing. Okay, AI is transforming how we live and work. Um, Automation, machines are automating tasks and reshaping industries. Digital communication, we connect instantly across devices and distances. Social media platforms influence opinions, emotions, and behaviors. That's a very powerful thing. Global connectivity, the world is more connected than ever before. But emotional intelligence remains a human responsibility. We can't outsource emotional intelligence to AI. This is something we will have to do for ourselves forever. Now, without emotional intelligence, anger spreads faster, division increases, ego overrides empathy, communication becomes toxic, misinformation escalates to conflict. Okay, with emotional intelligence, communication improves, empathy increases, leadership becomes more ethical, communities become healthier, conflict becomes more manageable. The future of humanity depends on intelligence, but on emotional intelligence. So let's say it again. The future of humanity depends not only on intelligence, but on emotional intelligence as well. Remember that. All of this stuff is moving forward and we're staying behind it. We're not going to be able to keep up, right? So we have to make sure that we're educating ourselves to always be able to enhance ourselves, right? Again, I gave you the example of organic AI. Just pretend like you are an organic AI that, again, you just can't go plug into a database and get all the information like on the movie Matrix, where they would just jack into they'll put something in their neck and be able to download as much information. We're not there yet, right? So until we get there, we have to find more ways to learn information and put this information in our minds, right? Next up, what are the requirements for emotional intelligence? All right, so here's the meat and potatoes. All right, we watched a lot today, going through a lot of information, but here's the most important information. All right, so the core skills required for emotional awareness, healthy relationships, communication, accountability, and emotional growth are self-awareness. Understand yourself, recognize emotions, identify your triggers, understand behavior patterns. For example, I notice I become defensive during criticism. Put a solution to that, right? Again, we feel so much. And it's okay. We're human. We're supposed to feel. But there is a such thing as feeling too much. Feeling too much can lead us down the negativity path where we impact ourselves or someone else in a negative way when we overfeel. When we feel to resort to negativity. Don't feel to resort to negativity. Feel in calm ways, self-aware ways, know what your triggers are so that you can't be triggered, so people can't pull them when you're around them. Okay? Learn yourself. Self-awareness is the most important step here. How do you know what to fix if you don't know it needs to be fixed? Stand in that mirror. Look at who in all of who you are. Don't be scared. Fix what you don't like. It's that simple, right? Next up, emotional regulation. Definitely the second most important thing. Manage reactions. Pause before reacting. Regulate anger and stress. Stay calm under pressure. And for example, taking a breath instead of yelling. Take that breath. Relax. You're in one of 1 million conversations you're going to have in your life. You don't need to crash out at every conversation. Why would you need to win every conversation even when you're wrong? That's showing dysfunction, emotional dysfunction, right? So next up is empathy. Understand others. Recognize emotions in others. Consider perspectives. Respond compassionately. I understand why that hurts you. right? Empathy. We're human. We were born with an expiration date. All of us always have empathy for each other. Next up, communication skills. Express and listen effectively. Active listening, respectful tone. Respectful tone. A lot of people are triggered. We don't know what social conditioning or survival conditioning people experienced in their life. A disrespectful tone can trigger someone. You want to have a respectful tone, emotional clarity. For example, listen fully before responding. Don't cut people off. If you're one of those people that have to cut people off all the time, whenever you have conversations with people, pull out a notepad and just jot down when they're saying stuff, put down stuff you want to come back to, but let them finish. Have some emotional civility about you. Okay. Next up, accountability. Take responsibility. Own mistakes, repair harm, improve behavior. I was wrong and I want to improve. Accountability is very important for you. It does something to you. You grow from accountability. Social awareness. Read emotional environments. Recognize tension. Understand social dynamics. Notice emotional cues. Recognizing discomfort without words. Discomfort tolerance. Stay grounded during stress. Tolerate criticism. You're going to get criticized. Tolerate it. Manage emotional pressure. Don't create emotional pressure within yourself. Remain emotionally stable. You must have discomfort tolerance in this world that we live in. You will not be comfortable all of the time. The world does not revolve solely around you. In fact, there are billions of other people that think that the world revolves specifically around them. So you got to always keep that in mind. Next up, pattern awareness. Recognize repeated behaviors. Identify unhealthy cycles. Understand recurring reactions. Improve self-understanding. I notice I shut down during conflict is the example there. That's that self-awareness piece. Stay aware, but pattern awareness, pattern recognition within self. I notice I get upset when this thing happens. Right? You have to be aware of that. Next up, moral and ethical awareness. Align emotions with integrity, honesty, fairness, responsibility. Choosing honesty even when it's difficult. Moral and ethical awareness. Be honest. If you were raised to be honest, if you understand the difference between right and wrong, which we have an episode for you that helps you understand that if you don't, but choose what you want to be and what you were raised to be. Choose what your values support. Have integrity in your emotional intelligence. Have morals in your emotional intelligence. And then last but not least, growth mindset. Choose growth over ego. Accept feedback. Remain teachable. Pursue emotional growth. For example, learning instead of becoming defensive. I told you in the example that I gave you all earlier, someone called me out in front of a group of people and they did it in what I thought to be a very passive aggressive, downward way. And instead of becoming defensive, I accepted the feedback. I'm always teachable because I don't know everything. I'm a human. I'm organic AI that doesn't have access to an infinite database. I have to read. I have to learn from the people around me. I have to learn from my environment. I have to gather as many resources as I can to learn. And that's how I learn, right? And then pursue emotional growth. Once that person embarrassed me or had the I could have chose to be embarrassed, but I took it as a moment of humility. And I took his information and used it to my benefit, not only to help me with what he was talking about, but to also start a business, right? Growth mindset. Okay. All right. How does no self-hate build emotional intelligence? Well, as we've been on this journey and we've gone through this episode, a lot of this stuff should be familiar to you if you've been watching No Self-Hate. If this is your first time seeing this episode, no worries. But for those that have watched majority or all of the episodes, we've already got you started on the path to being in high a high emotionally intelligent human being, separating yourself from the pack, right? Not just being socially conditioned, not just going off survival conditioning. We've walked you through some of this, majority of this emotionally intelligent stuff. Let's see how we did it. All right, episode 1. We talked about what is self-hate. It built self-awareness. This episode helped recognize negative self-talk, identify emotional wounds, understand internal dialogue. Why this improved your emotional intelligence. You cannot regulate emotions you do not recognize. Self-awareness is very important. How this improved emotional intelligence. This episode taught emotional awareness and self-observation. Self-observation. Looking in that mirror, not literally, figuratively, the emotional mirror in your mind, looking at how you think, having some objectivity to yourself, being able to observe self. Okay. Understanding self-hate is the first step to emotional growth and healing. The next step, we came with the how do I resolve trauma? It built emotional regulation foundations. This episode explored trauma responses, triggers, nervous system, survival patterns. Why this improved emotional intelligence is because trauma often drives emotional reactions unconsciously. How this improved emotional intelligence. This episode taught viewers to trigger awareness, nervous system understanding, emotional regulation foundations. Healing trauma is not about forgetting the past. It's about reclaiming your power in the present. The next up, we took you to what is anger. Oof, this was one that was really big for me. It built emotional awareness and impulse control. Impulse control. You must be able to control yourself in those impulses. It happens quick. Something will happen, or someone will say something, or someone will do something, and before you know it, your heart gets that feeling and you just react. But you must have impulse control. This episode explored anger as protection, emotional overload, reactive behavior. Why this improved emotional intelligence. Anger often masks deeper emotions such as hurt, fear, shame, or rejection. How this improved emotional intelligence. This episode taught viewers how to identify emotional roots, regulate anger, communicate emotions more effectively. Understanding anger isn't about suppressing it, it's about understanding it, healing it, and transforming it. Then we went to forgiveness IQ. What is forgiveness? This one changed my life. The day I watched this episode, my heart became lighter than a feather. I forgave myself for everything, failures, and I forgave people in the past. I forgave anything I could think of that was, uncomfortable to me with relationships, within myself. I just forgave it. Unconditional forgiveness is a necessity if the goal is to be emotionally intelligent. If the goal is to not harbor and hang on to trauma and pain, you must learn to forgive yourself and forgive others unconditionally. All right. So this episode built empathy and emotional healing, forgiveness, resentment, emotional freedom, healing without excusing harm. Why this improved emotional intelligence? Unforgiveness traps people emotionally in pain. How this improved emotional intelligence? This episode taught empathy, emotional release, compassion, emotional flexibility. Forgiveness is not about saying it's okay. It's about freeing your heart, mind, and future. Then we moved on to morality IQ, where we built ethical emotional intelligence, right versus wrong, ethics, moral reasoning, cognitive bias. Why this improved emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence without morality can become manipulation. Let's explain that. Emotional intelligence without morality can become manipulation. If you're being accountable to appease someone, you're manipulating them. But if you're being accountable because it aligns with your morality and your values, then you are upholding your values and your morality. But without that morality piece, you're just A chameleon that's just changing the color to whatever color you need to be wherever you need to be. And that's disingenuous, and it is very manipulative, right? Always be genuine. All right, how this improved emotional intelligence. This episode taught viewers integrity, ethical thinking, value-based decision making. Morality is the compass, emotions are the engines. Together they can create character. Then we moved on to what is communication, another very valuable episode that changed my life. Active listening was one of those. I used to be one of those people that always interrupted people until I learned active listening. Truly hearing to understand, not just to respond. Communication breakdowns, emotional expression, effective communication, sharing ideas and emotions in ways that build understanding. Now, why this improved emotional intelligence? Communication is how emotional intelligence becomes visible. People may feel empathy internally, but communication determines whether understanding, respect, and emotional awareness are actually experienced by others. So how you communicate is how it's going to help those outside of you, your relationships, all right? How this improved emotional intelligence. This episode taught viewers listening skills. Deep listening builds trust and stronger relationships. Emotional communication. Communicating feelings with clarity and emotional intelligence. Conflict reduction, respectful dialogue. Conversations rooted in respect create connection and solutions. Core message: healthy communication transforms emotional intelligence from internal awareness into human connection. That's after you get that self-awareness and you get self together. The communication, we should see the emotional intelligence in your communication when you're listening and dealing with others, when you have patience, empathy, when you have integrity, when you have morality, whenever you're dealing with other people. That's how we'll be able to see your emotional intelligence. And we've taught you that already if you saw the episode. Next up, accountability IQ. It's so many episodes here that changed my life. I don't know who I was before No Self Hate. I have no idea who I was. Okay. Yeah. I was just NPC. I was programmed by my environment and by survival conditioning and social conditioning to be NPC, and that's exactly what I was. NPC is a non-playable character in reference to like video games where there's a character that the computer created just to be an aesthetic or be a part of something, but their only job is to do exactly what they've been programmed to do. And you have to learn how to escape your programming. It's deep now. All right, this series explored accountability, shame versus guilt, defensiveness, ownership, and repair. Why this improved emotional intelligence? True emotional intelligence is tested during discomfort, conflict, embarrassment, and accountability. Anyone can appear emotionally intelligent during comfort. Emotional maturity is revealed when emotions become difficult to manage. How this improved emotional intelligence. This episode taught viewers emotional regulation under pressure, accountability, repair orientation, discomfort tolerance, and behavioral change. All right. Core message: accountability transform emotional intelligence from awareness into growth, repair, and behavioral change. And yes, all of those things have been working for me. Breaking defensiveness was the hardest thing. And we go back to feeling too much. When people would say stuff, I would want to defend it as we go back to behaviors of unaccountable people, why people are unaccountable. We know that identity protection is one of those things, and defensiveness is the main result from identity protection. When you want to protect your identity, it took me so long to break that. It took months and years to fully break defensiveness, and I'm still working on it, right? But that episode was very good as well. And now we have emotional intelligence, the foundation of human thriving, and what we learned today. We learned what is emotional intelligence, self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, communication, accountability, social awareness, personal growth. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and communicate emotions while building healthy relationships and making responsible decisions. Why does it matter? EQ influences families, relationships, careers, leadership, mental health, communities, society. Without emotional intelligence, conflict increases, communication breaks down, defensiveness grows, relationships suffer, empathy declines. What prevents EQ development? Trauma, chronic stress, poverty. Remember, we talked about poverty. You could get up out of there. Poverty, I wouldn't say is a choice, but it's almost something like a choice. You have to lock in. You have to escape the social conditioning. You have to escape the survival conditioning, but you can do it. Social conditioning, lack of emotional education, get you some emotional education. Go through, if you haven't done so and you want to change your life, I challenge you to start at episode 1 and work your way all the way through. You will be a different human and you will see the world differently. I see the world differently now. I see people as, a lot of people are just hurt. A lot of people just want attention. A lot of people just want to be seen. A lot of people just want power and control, and they'll do anything for it. I mean, anything, including fighting you or harming you in irreversible ways. That is the world we live in. You must navigate it. Okay? These factors can shape emotional habits, but they do not determine our future. The good news: emotional intelligence can be developed through awareness, reflection, accountability, communication practice, emotional regulation, therapy and healing, continuous learning, and personal growth. Season 1 journey was self-hate, trauma, anger, forgiveness, morality, communication, accountability, and then last but not least, emotional intelligence. Intelligence can build the future. Emotional intelligence determines what kind of future we create. We have to do this together individually, as a family. You have to do the work for you. I have to do the work for me. My son has to do the work for him. My daughter has to do the work for her. My wife has to do the work for her. We all have an individual journey together that we must travel. Okay? And that's what this self-service mental health awareness is about. You putting in the work. These videos are long. But what are you willing to do to change your life? How bad do you want to change your life? How bad do you want to have a different reality? How bad do you want to escape the pain, the defensiveness, the trauma, hanging on the grudges, subscription to misery? How bad do you want to change that? Poverty. How bad do you want to change these things? If you want to change them bad, I've laid out a season of information for you. And I've done it. Not only am I the client, I am the CEO. And I've done it. And I can't believe I went this long without doing this. I can't believe it. I could imagine, joy was joy, but joy could have been so much more if I had this information. Happiness could have been so much more. Relationships. Now, I'm not, crying over spilt milk or things that didn't go the way. Hey, everything happens for a reason in my book. I think there's a little, wheel in there as well, but everything happens for a reason. And if you're watching this episode, it's happening for a reason. It's time to change. It's time to grow. Stop doing what you're seeing everybody else do and create your own path, your way. Fix you. All right? Last but not least, we have our resources and references. I'll let you take a look at that. I won't read all of that, but these are the resources that we use to build today's episode. You go to NOSELFHATE.com. We got our No Self Hate gear. I didn't have it on today because this was very special to me. And I wanted you all to know that we are serious about emotional intelligence and getting better. Okay. And I know feeling good. When I look good, I feel good. When I think good, I feel good. Right? When I love myself, I feel great. And that's what this is about. Love thyself first. Put the work in. All right. This is no self hate, accelerating the evolution of human emotional intelligence. And with that, we are getting ready to sign off. Remember, go check out our content and apparel. Some of these infographics that you saw up here today will be available on the website just to help keep it in your pocket, just to make sure if you ever get in a situation like earlier, I got in a situation I had to pull out an infographic to look at where I was and to see where I had to go, right? And it worked. So yeah, with that, right. Thank you all for your time, energy, your love, your support, your for observing my existence, for liking, for subscribing, for hyping this video, from sharing this video, for commenting on this video. This information is normally behind a paywall where you got to pay hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars to get it. But it's right here on YouTube for you. If you're ready to change your life, go ahead, step out there. But I want to thank you all for observing me, for supporting me, and for just being here. All right. I wish you all the best of luck in your emotional intelligence journey. We have some new other parts to come up to this episode 8. They won't disappoint. So yeah, see you soon. Be good. Peace.